Thank you for being here. I have to say, I am so happy. I feel speechless. I did not think we would ever be able to get together again. The way that we have been fighting for a year and a half, through lockdowns, through restrictions, we've been fighting postponements. My goodness, and now here it is, although it's only been just not even an hour since we started congregating here, seeing so many of you old friends and meeting some new ones. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here. I'm just so happy that you're here. For those of you who are not familiar with the Heartland Institute, or those of you who may need a reminder, or may like a reminder, the Heartland Institute is a nonprofit, nonpartisan public policy organization. Our mission is to discover, develop, and promote free market solutions to the problems that confront society. So oftentimes people say, this is a science question. Why is it that the Heartland Institute is involved? If you're public policy and this is science, if you're a think tank. The reason we're involved is that the so-called solutions that have been prescribed to us for so long by the environmental left always entail an expansion of government, a reduction of human freedom, and adding on to our energy costs and options. So if that's going to be the case, listen, if the planet is burning up, if we are facing these climate crises that they tell us, well, of course you have to do what you have to do. But let's look under the hood to make sure that the same taxes, the same growth in government that the environmental left proposes again and again and again, for whatever reason they invent, is actually going on. And what you're going to see, folks here in the room and watching all over the world on live stream and afterwards on video recording, are some of the most knowledgeable experts in the world on climate science, on economics, and public policy that will tell you what they found when they looked under the hood. And when you look under the hood, what you see is that we're not facing a climate crisis. The theme this year for the Heartland Institute's conference is the Great Reset, Climate Realism versus Climate Socialism. There is a reason why we chose that. If you go to the World Economic Forum's page, it's right there. People sometimes say, well, James, isn't this some kind of crazy conspiracy theory? The World Economic Forum, for which leaders of state, leaders of industry, thought leaders around the world gather every year, they have posted that their agenda is, quote, the Great Reset of Capitalism. And what they mean by that is that they would like to have what they call stakeholder capitalism. What stakeholder capitalism is that anybody or anything who's influenced by any product that any business makes has just as much of a right to tell that business what they can and cannot do than the business owner themselves. There's a word for that. It's socialism. It's socialism, and it's trending toward Marxism. We at the Heartland Institute, when we see this, we sent out word. We sent out word, it was a year and a half ago, when the Great Reset justified, the World Economic Forum justified its Great Reset agenda on climate change. They said that because of the climate crises, because of what is going to happen to devastate the world through climate change, we need this Great Reset of capitalism. So throughout the next few days, we're going to present the science, the economics, the policy, but we're going to have a special emphasis on what these international leaders are right now actively seeking to impose. It is very real, folks. At the World Economic Forum meetings, you have heads of state from around the world, leaders of the largest companies and industries from around the world, thought leaders. We're here to fight back with the truth, because climate change is what they're using as a Trojan horse for their globalist, socialist agenda. And again, we are here to discover, develop, and promote free market solutions, freedom-oriented solutions for the problems that confront society. Now, why is it that they use climate change as a Trojan horse? They use it as a Trojan horse because, quite frankly, they need something inside, because the whole edifice is rotten. The whole notion that we are facing a climate crisis is a delusion. It is a climate delusion. Now let me illustrate. Did you know that NASA satellites have been measuring lands burnt by wildfire since 1998? You hear in the media all the time, anytime there's a wildfire anywhere in the world, it's caused by global warming. We're seeing the impacts of climate change. Yet NASA satellites report that since they began measuring wildfires in 1998, the lands burnt by wildfires globally are down by 24%. It is a delusion when they tell you that global warming is causing wildfires. Did you know that whenever you hear a story about the Great Barrier Reef being decimated by global warming, that is a delusion? Did you know that the Australian government itself undertook a study, an evaluation, a field study in which they investigated, counted, calculated the amount of coral cover in the Great Barrier Reef? Guess what they found? We currently have a record amount of coral in the Great Barrier Reef. There has never been more coral. It is a delusion when they tell you that global warming is destroying the Great Barrier Reef. When they tell you that we're facing record drought caused by global warming, did you know that twice in the past 5 years the United States set records for the lowest amount of land in which drought was occurring? Record low drought twice. Did you know that we're currently undergoing the longest period in recorded history here in the United States in which we have not had at least 40% of American lands experiencing very dry conditions, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration? That used to happen, folks, about once a decade. It hasn't happened in more than 40 years. If it ever happens again, you know they will blame global warming. It is a delusion. It is a delusion. Throughout the conference these next few days, that's just a few of the tidbits. It's the tip of the iceberg of what our scientists will be reporting. But folks around the world, here in the room, if you are unsure about what you think on this, that's a wonderful thing. Approach this with an open mind, listen to the facts, and then judge according to the facts, not according to propaganda. Sometimes I'm asked, James, but why are you fighting this? It seems that every time I turn on the television, all I hear is that we're creating a climate crisis. What's the point? We are losing the battle, we're losing the war. Don't believe that for a minute. The media may be one-sided. The media is one-sided on a lot of topics besides global warming. The fact that the media is one-sided doesn't mean we're losing the debate in the hearts and minds of the American people and people around the world. When you get discouraged, remember that poll after poll after poll, when they ask people, what would you pay to address climate change? Poll after poll after poll shows that a majority of people would not even pay $10 a month. Why is it they won't pay $10 a month? Because they know it is not a crisis. Multiple polls taken in the last year have asked people, how concerned are you about global warming? At least as many people have answered in those polls that they are either not very concerned or not at all concerned, as a number of people who say they are very concerned. Folks, we are not losing, we are winning the debate. Don't be discouraged. Science wins out. And the discernment of people around the world wins out because human beings are an intelligent species. Present information and truth will win out. That's why just last week, Vox, which is a left-leaning media outlet, they published an article. And the article's theme was, well, I don't want to break the surprise. So I'm going to read to you the opening two, I believe it is, sentences from this Vox article. Has the climate movement failed? It's hard to look at the world at this moment and not conclude that the answer is yes. Despite all the activism, despite all the protests, despite all the warnings. Folks, don't let people get you down. We are winning. The folks on the left admit it. I'm proud to announce that the Heartland Institute is at the forefront of this fight, along with our many allies who are here in this room. CEI, the CO2 Coalition, there are so many I couldn't even name them all, But believe me, the European Institute for Climate and Energy, Clintel, etc., folks, thank you for your hard work in this fight. We're happy to be up here at the Heartland Institute, also at the forefront of this battle. And I'd like to report a couple of new developments on our front since we last held a climate conference 2 years ago. If you are unaware, the Heartland Institute launched a website, climaterealism.com. Folks, if you're not familiar with it, check it out, climaterealism.com. What we do is each and every day, we do a Google News search with the term climate change. We see what is being discussed in the media, what is being propagated to the American people, and then what we do is we take their most prominent climate scare story of the day and we debunk it. We provide the real facts. And I can't tell you how many times, look, I like to smoke cigars. I go into my cigar lounge, they'll have CNN on, and somebody will say, oh, look at that hurricane, still don't believe in climate change? When they do that to you, go to climaterealism.com and you get the truth about what's happening with hurricanes and whether or not they're increasing because of global warming. Another website, climateataglance.com. Climateataglance.com. If you don't know this website, again, check it out. What we have done, Anthony Watts in particular, sitting at the front table, he'll be telling you a little bit more about this later. We have put together topical summaries on 40 topics. We have 30 of them that Anthony will be talking about later today. But basically, the topics you most frequently hear about in the media, whether it's hurricanes, droughts, tornadoes, sea level rise, climate refugees, etc. And we've put together essentially 1- and 2-page summaries. They're concise so that it doesn't go over people's head and put them to sleep. They are compelling and they're backed by scientific data, but they're easy to read. They're basically designed for Little League parents who have a casual interest. They hear about tornadoes, you pick it up. climateataglance.com, those are your summaries. If you're a policymaker here in the room and you get the gotcha questions, or you know you're going to get one because there's a wildfire burning somewhere near your state, go to climateataglance.com and you'll have the ammunition. A few bullet points at the front, a compelling graph, and a short summary. With that, I'd like to allow the program to get moving here. I have so much more I'd love to talk about, but I'll be up here more than once. Sorry, folks. But I just want to say, like I said at the beginning, I'm just overwhelmed. I wish you could feel my heart as I look out and see the faces of longtime friends. I know it's been difficult getting here, dealing with COVID, dealing with wearing masks on flights to get here. And for many people, it's been quite a hardship, and yet here you are. You've lifted my spirits. If you are a speaker, thank you for being here. If you're not a speaker, believe me, you are lifting the hearts of each and every speaker that you'll be seeing here. It's one of the things that we all look forward to, and having that support and that energy and that love from you. So thank you very much. Enjoy your dinner, and we'll be back with the program shortly. That is a daunting task we face, but I know the people in this room. I know the people who are watching around the world. I know the people who may not be in this room and may not be watching right now, but still who love freedom, who constitute the backbone of this country, and will fight hard to keep it. We still live in a democratic republic. We still have the capacity to put into office leaders who will stand up and fight for us against this disillusion of freedom and the advance of authoritarianism. Here at the Heartland Institute, earlier today, throughout the day, we hosted an Emerging Issues Forum for legislators from around the country. They were here today. Many of them are here this evening and will be here this weekend. We're educating them on important topics of the day, not just global warming, but every other aspect of our lives for which freedom is so important. We are going to keep fighting that fight. We are never going to give up in that fight. Don't let people discourage you. I know people who say that they are disappointed in the last elections and they're never going to vote again. Whether or not votes were stolen, election results were altered, regardless if that is true or not, if you don't vote, you don't give yourself any chance. The American people are smart. People around the world are smart. We are discerning. We are human beings. We are capable of this. I can tell you, I can predict quite confidently that if we withstand the next 12 months here in this country without major climate change legislation, without major transformations of our economy and society, well, then we're going to be out of the woods for a while, because there's no way that these folks are going to be returned to power. Don't give up. Don't give up. I mentioned earlier about how wonderful it is to see so many old friends, to make new friends, and it's so true. One of my old friends, one of our old friends who's not here with us anymore, Bob Carter, miss him greatly. It's been 5 years, can you believe that? Bob's brother-in-law came up to me earlier and asked if he can have a minute up on the stage here. So come on up. Are you in the room with us? There we go. For those of you who don't know Bob Carter was a brilliant scientist. He was one of the founding members of the Non-Governmental International Panel on Climate Change. He fought hard. He didn't stop fighting until the day he passed. And here with a few words.
I don't know whether this will work, but I have a 60-second greeting to the conference from Bob's wife, Anne, who many of you have met. It's a little video, so all I'll be able to show or display is the audio.
Hello everyone. My sister Helen and Bill, my brother-in-law, who are attending the conference, have offered to pass on my special greetings to you today. And I really want to remember our special Heartland friends, Bob's friends and my friend. And the people I really want to mention are Willie Soon, Mark Morano, Christopher Monkton, lots of other friends, James Taylor, and Patrick Moore, just to name a few. I wish I could be with you today and to share some of the old friendships, but I look forward to listening to some of the talks after the conference. Best wishes and fond memories.
Thank you, Jay.
Bob Carter will forever live in our hearts. He'll always be a part of me. He'll always be a part of so many people in this room. Bob passed 5 years ago, as I mentioned. It's been 2 years since we last gathered, and a few others have passed as well. We put together a tribute for some of our friends who have passed, and if we can cue that up, please.
You know, the thing about us NASA guys, when we were right, we knew it. You know, and I look at these climate scientists, they embrace a factor of 3 uncertainty on how much the Earth is going to warm if you double CO2. We don't like that kind of uncertainty. You know, we're going to put people's lives on the line.
Just recently, the White House climate report was released, stating sea level will rise from between 20 centimeters and 2 meters by year 2100. Nonsense, my friends.
This is something that you will not see, the world that Al Gore and the IPC want to give you. Sorry, folks. This is the world you deserve. It's the world that Axel Murner, Willie Soon, and our group of scientists here want to leave you with. And I want to thank you very much for the privilege.
Okay. Tom mentioned 90%. 90% of the time since the Ice Age, the Earth was warmer than it is now. Actually, 90% of the time since creation, the Earth was warmer than it is now.
A few years ago, I wrote with Fred Singer a book called Unstoppable Global Warming Every 1,500 Years. The Dansgaard-Oeschger climate cycle that moved from global warmings to global coolings in a long, natural pattern. We haven't known why that pattern occurred, but we knew that it did.
Dr. Fred Singer is the first and still the most prominent global warming skeptic in the world. He is one of the most respected scientists in the world.
I spent this morning writing down some of the things that were important in my life.
He was one of the world's original rocket scientists.
The fact that I ran the weather satellite program for the United States, and I think that was the important technical highlight that got me into the climate business.
He was writing books on global warming in the 1980s, before most of us realized it was an issue.
Because the publication of the NIPCC reports has been one of the highlights of my life.
He helped discover the technology and that ultimately led to putting men on the moon.
Climate skeptics have the right approach to life and to climate and to everything that goes with it. Thank you very much.
Those giants in science, they may not be here physically in this room, but what they taught will live on for as long as we are courageous enough to share what they taught us. And folks, believe me, if you knew any of those fellows, they would tell you, keep fighting. Keep fighting with energy. Keep fighting with compassion. Don't ever give up. Don't get down. Don't get down when we pass. Keep fighting. That's how we best remember them. That's how we best live out their wishes. And if it takes anything else for us, after my opening remarks, I was quite moved why we should keep fighting. So a hardworking lady here who is attending to us here in this room here, working long hours, I'm sure, working hard, came up to me at the front table. And she said, "You are the most courageous man I've ever met." And I said, "Why is that?" And she said, "For saying what you're saying, for speaking the truth. You have our government trying to destroy this country right now. You've got people around the world that will attack you and that'll do the wrong things and destroy this company or destroy this country." She said, "Don't ever give up. Keep fighting. Don't ever give up." She gave me a big hug and a kiss, and then she went back to doing her job. That just moved me. But as much as she voiced that to me, that is a voice for everybody in this room. It's a voice for everybody watching on video. Don't ever give up. Folks, they want you to quit. They being the environmental left, the climate left. They want you to quit. They want you to get discouraged. They want you to get your tail between your legs. We're not going to do that. We are going to keep fighting, aren't we? We're going to keep fighting. For the lady here who's working hard and attending to our needs here at this conference, don't give up. And there are millions more like her that say the same thing to us. We're not going to do that. Folks, it's been a pleasure being here this evening. Thank you for being here for this dinner presentation. Tomorrow morning, we will be starting 7:30. We will be serving breakfast, and the session will begin right here, 8 a.m. That's Pacific time. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you in the morning.